That's how we do it. All right, guys. Let me know if you can hear me and see me and all that stuff. Where do I want to put my little portrait here? All right, so I decided to start the stream a little bit earlier because why not? So you can see me, you can hear me, and how is the audio? Well, let me know how the audio is. Loud and clear. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, yeah, I wanted to do a live stream just to talk about some movies and maybe talk about a book or two and a show or two that I've been watching. And, we're going to talk about cosmic horror. We're going to talk about just some sci fi stuff and just have a general chat. And I want to do more of these live streams from here on out. Maybe weekly, maybe bi weekly. Just let me know what you guys think. And if you guys want to suggest any topics at all, if you guys want to suggest any books or discussions, then obviously do so. And yeah, I'm sure we can have some fun monthly live streams or bi-weekly live streams. And, it's just as a way to connect more with the audience in the crazy world that we live in. All right. So how have you guys been? It's been is the audio low? Because I can turn it up. It's been about 5 months since my last live stream. And my last live stream was on Severance. And it was on Andor. And we talked about a few other things as well on that last live stream. But it's been a while because if I'm honest, live streaming isn't my thing. I'm not the best at live streaming. I tend to get flustered when looking at comments and then trying to keep my thoughts. And also just there's something that is just a tiny bit stressful for someone like me who is an introvert to be seeing all the comments all at once. So just bear with me during this live stream. If I miss your comment or I don't see something that you've typed, it is not intentional. And I just appreciate all of you for joining me for this chat. And I do have screenshots and like slideshows set up for all the things I'm going to talk about so we can keep things visually interesting. But just before we get started, there's been something I've been meaning to say. Just a quick note. Just a quick note. All right, and I did take some notes because got a lot to talk about today. We got some cool, interesting. I feel like we're in such a good era of science fiction television and science fiction movies, and there's so much cool stuff coming out. But yeah, first note. And generally the audience here on live is a good audience, and you guys don't get too crazy. But I am looking for moderators. I'm looking for more moderators, so just be on the lookout. So I just wanted to say that any passive aggressive or condescending or patronizing or hateful comments will result in a permanent ban, right? Because I'm having to be more aggressive now on banning people because, now that AI has taken over the whole internet, and I kind of have this need to put more of myself into my content, and putting more of yourself into your content, that comes along with people. People get a little bit meaner when they see a person versus it's just a voice on a screen. So people get a little bit meaner. So if you're one of those people that comment mean things on videos, just so you know, probably nobody is seeing them but you, because it's likely you have already been banned or hidden, right? So YouTube doesn't notify you when this happens, but so there are like many people that I don't know, they want to humble me in the comments weekly or daily, but you're wasting your time because no one can see your comments or interact with you except you. You've probably already been banned, because what happens now is, the way I've had to start doing it, is that the first time that I see an aggressive comment, even a comment that's just passive aggressive or overly pedantic, is what happens is you get hidden from the channel. Because I figure if you make a comment like that once, then the likelihood of you continuing to spread that hate is strong. And that's just not the community that I want to foster on this channel. So this is just a reminder for anybody that thinks like that. We're not aggressive here. We're not aggressive. This is a channel for friendly discussions on science fiction lore, on philosophy. You would think that a channel like this wouldn't receive a lot of hate comments, but you would be wrong because I do a lot of curation, and the people that moderate my channel do a lot of curation. So, yeah, in fact, and just as an example, and this maybe is why I don't like the stream as much. In the last stream, we did have an incident where I had the comments up on the screen, and I actually had to take the comments off of the screen within the first 5-10 minutes because some person kept posting the N word, making multiple accounts to just post the N word all down the comment thing. And, that's just a part of the world we live in right now. And that comes along with putting yourself out there and being on the internet. People have this idea that, like, I don't know. I don't know what people's idea is. But, that's the crazy, bizarre world that we live in. So I just want to make it clear that that is not this community. You will not be allowed to get away with that type of stuff here. And I want to set that line and draw that line in the dirt as I become more present on this channel and as I do more live streams. I want to foster and grow a community of science fiction lovers that can discuss science fiction in a cordial manner, in a respectful manner. But yeah, that being said, we are totally looking for more moderators. So if anybody wants to be a moderator, just let me know, and then I'll stay on the lookout, and then we'll see who can be our moderators, because that's very exciting to have new moderators. So now that that's out of the way, sorry, it got a little bit serious. So today's topic, if you've been following this channel a while, then you probably know that I love cosmic horror. It's one of my favorite things. It's an absolutely terrifying and fascinating subgenre of science fiction. There's something about the work of Lovecraft, ever since I read it when I was a teenager, that I have to read it in October, November time. I get drawn to it in October, November time. And he has a ton of stories, so you can just open up a book of Lovecraft and just read a bunch of stories if you want. And of course, I don't know anybody that's read every Lovecraft story, but he's got a bunch of them. Not all of them are the same quality, but he's got a bunch of them. And Lovecraft is obviously one of the most influential writers of all time. Now you can see his influence in all over the place, not just in science fiction and not just in horror. You see little Lovecraft nods in cartoons, TV shows, comic books. They're all over the place. So he's definitely significant. So in case you don't know, just to give an explanation of what cosmic horror is, I'm sure you probably know if you're watching this stream. Cosmic horror, or Lovecraftian horror, is it's a horror of an existential nature that deals with humanity's insignificance in the face of an incomprehensible and indifferent universe. It's not really about jump scares like a lot of horror is about. It's not about monsters in the dark, even though that's there sometimes. But really, it's about the realization that reality itself is vast and uncaring and ultimately unknowable. And the fear comes from a recognition that human understanding, human morality, just all of it is probably just a fragile illusion, or is an illusion, that what lies beyond is a cosmos that's governed by forces and entities so immense and so alien that to even glimpse them can shatter the mind. So that's the basic concept of cosmic horror. And the first thing or show that we're going to talk about is an Apple TV show. And this just came out. I wasn't even really aware of this. Actually, I think a while ago, Apple TV actually emailed me and they asked if I wanted some early screenings of this show, but I couldn't get back to them in time, so I wasn't able to get an early screening of this show. But I have seen the first 2 episodes now, and that show is Pluribus. I think it's pronounced Pluribus. Now, if you have not seen this show, the first two episodes are out right now on Apple TV, and it is an excellent example of cosmic horror. I feel like it's an excellent new original sci-fi story that is building on an old idea, an old premise. You got the Borg in Star Trek. That's kind of similar. You've got Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and I think there's even a reference. Someone even says something about pod people in this show. But let's just explain the premise of the show. Let's just explain the premise of it because it's a really good premise in my opinion. So we pick up a signal. Oh, actually, forgot about this. A little bit of background music, just make sure that's not too loud. Make sure you can still hear me over it. Set the mood. So we pick up a signal from a space. And it's an RNA signal. Thanks for gifting a membership, Darth Patty. Thanks so much. And of course, we replicate this RNA sequence. This is in the very beginning of the show. So it's not really a spoiler, but it is in the very beginning of the show. So I'm not gonna spoil too much, but I am gonna give you the basic premise. So it's not gonna be like spoilerific of everything that happens in the show, just so you know. So it's an RNA signal that we get from outer space, and we replicate it with rats. And of course, we replicate a signal that's like a DNA sequence or an RNA sequence. It's like it's a virus essentially, but not quite like a virus, but it's analogous to a virus. So that's what I mean when I say RNA sequence. And this is a really cool idea to me because when I was a kid, by the way, I was raised by my grandparents, and my granddad was a zany figure. He would show me the most horrific horror movies, like Stephen King stuff, science fiction movies that I absolutely should not have been watching at 10 years old. But one of the movies that I saw as a kid was a movie called Species. And if you know that movie, then you know that a 10-year-old kid should not be watching that movie. But in this movie, you have SETI, the search for intelligence or whatever it's called in outer space. They pick up a signal that is also got a DNA sequence. And then they clone it and they make, Species and the monster. The movie is really kind of like a B-list ripoff of Alien. But yeah, that's the premise of it. And watching this, I couldn't help but think about that movie because I'm like, whatever signal that you're getting from outer space, don't make it, don't manifest it, don't make it into something real. You don't even understand what this is. But they do. They put it inside of rats. And of course, it spreads out of the rats. What do rats do? Rats bite people. And it happens relatively quickly. So essentially what's going on in the show is that whatever this virus is, it creates a psychic connection seemingly between members of the same species, right? So in a relatively short amount of time, it spreads across the entire Earth and it infects the majority of people, like the vast majority of people. Only like 11 people or so are not infected. And the protagonist is, where's the protagonist? She's one of the 11 people total not infected. And the really interesting thing about this show is that the hive mind isn't hostile necessarily, but that's the moral dilemma. The hive mind isn't necessarily hostile. They will not kill intentionally, even insects. They only wish to help others, and they only wish to help undo the damage that was caused by them spreading the infection. Now, I'm just going to say that I will be getting into some spoilers for the first two episodes, which are out, but the first two episodes, from what I can tell, are just the setup for like a show that's going to say a lot much more, I think. So the first two episodes, you can go watch them now. If you don't want to hear some of the spoilers for the first two episodes, then you can maybe click off of this. But I guarantee you, there's going to be so much more than what happens in the first two episodes of this show. So I just want to set up the premise for those of you that maybe you've been seeing this show pop up, but you don't know what it is. Really, you should definitely watch it. So where was I? So they won't kill intentionally. Their only wish is to go out of their way to help people, and they work really hard to undo even the damage that's caused by spreading the infection. And like I said, that's one of the dilemmas of the show that I really enjoy. There's this idea of cost versus the benefit. All right. So here's another semi spoiler, right? When the initial big spread of the infection happens, by the end of it, 900 million people or so die when this infection goes global, right? It seems like some people just don't seem to be compatible, which can result in death. And then there's also these seizure-like episodes that occur upon initial infection. So seemingly many people are killed before the psychic connection is even made. Like, because if you're driving a car or operating a plane at the time of the infection, it's likely that you didn't survive, right? And what is really interesting about this show to me is that the protagonist seems to be one of the only characters who's not infected that isn't fine with it. Up on the screen are some of the other people that are infected, and they're all just kind of that aren't infected, and they're all just kind of okay with it. And it's interesting that some characters have entire, family members of infected people now, right? There's a really good scene in the show where one of the characters is with her son, and she's like, "This is my son. He's still my son." And the protagonist basically responds saying, "Your son knows how to fly planes. Your son knows how to perform surgery. Your son has all of the knowledge of everybody. In what way is this still your son? What about this entity is your son?" And I think that's a really good point. Is something not fundamentally lost? Right? Is something not fundamentally lost? Because of course it is. Of course. But of course, it's certainly easier. I think this would just be true, right? It is easier for people to just accept this if they have families than to accept the loss of their loved ones, right? The protagonist is asking this woman to just basically accept that her son is dead, that her husband is dead, that her entire family is dead. And of course, that's difficult to do when they're literally, they're seemingly standing right in front of you. But the point is, like, what even is this? What even is this? Your son is lost in the sea of this entity. All right. So as I said, there are only 2 episodes out, but I'm so interested in seeing where this show goes and the type of ideas it explores. For instance, does any individuality still exist among the infected people, or are they entirely one being, right? And I think that the show seems to be setting things up in such a way that makes you think about these questions. Like, for instance, I'm just going to call this woman Raban because I know that's the book character that she kind of looks like. I'm not sure what her actual name is. But there's that scene where Raban is about to board Air Force One to be a part of, this guy's harem or whatever it is. And something came to my mind during this scene that, does she actually want to do that? Even though she's a part of the hive and that's what the hive is willing to do, is there a modicum of individuality there? And I think it'd be interesting to explore that, because to me it seemed like, maybe I'm wrong, it seemed like she didn't want to necessarily go. Like there was something that resisted. You got Star Trek, the Borg, and the Borg are one mind, but then you can still separate a Borg from the collective and they go back to being an individual. And then you also have the Borg Queen, who is also a separate entity from the rest of them, kind of. So it can be a little bit nebulous, I would say. And, the other interesting thing about the show is I wonder if it will explore the origins of this virus, or whatever it is. Because this thing is seriously gnarly. I think they say the signal came from about 6 light years away. So does that mean that other civilizations were infected? Right? This is some kind of RNA sequence, some kind of virus thing that wants to spread. right? And also the question is, was it constructed or did it evolve? Will humanity in the end be connected with an even larger cosmic force? Because this is like a psychic connection, right? So, 600 light years away is what they said. 600 light years away. So, you've got works like Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood End. They talk about this cosmic conscious entity, and then in the book, humanity is entering in to become a part of this, right? So I wonder if at the end of this season or at the end of the show, if it'll get even bigger and humanity will then connect into like this grander cosmic hive mind thing, because this signal came from the depths of outer space, and it's not totally clear if other species can connect, right? It's not totally clear, all right, because I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's affecting other animals on Earth. So I guess, I don't know what that means yet. We're only 2 episodes in, but I hope to cover the show more often. I hope to cover the show more as it goes on. Yeah, so if you really think about it, this virus-like thing, it wants to spread at any cost. Even when it was in the rat, like it went out of its way to to bite someone. It wants to spread, right? So if I could guess, I think the signal that they picked up in the beginning of it was an attempt to spread the message as far out across the galaxy, as far across the universe as possible. Because they say in the show that they don't even know how long this signal has been broadcasting, which is a terrifying cosmic horror idea, that there's this signal just broadcasting throughout outer space, just waiting for somebody, some intelligent species to pick it up and copy it, right? So it could have been broadcasting for millions of years. We don't know how old this thing is. This could all just be the beginning. This entity could have a hidden purpose. There could be like a hidden switch, so to speak, that's meant to activate at a specific time for a specific purpose or a specific goal. I love television shows like this that are original because there's so many different possibilities. And another really interesting thing about this show is the fact that because this is a kind of weird psychic connection between those infected by this kind of virus, people who are not infected can still influence the infected with strong emotions. So negative emotions cause them all to kind of like seize up all at once. And of course, this is disastrous because when you have billions of people seizing up all at once, some people are bound to get hurt, and that's exactly what happens. So it creates this really interesting dilemma in this show, and I'm sure they're going to continue to explore this throughout the further episodes, where the protagonist who lost her partner at the beginning of this show because of the infection, she can't even react angrily, because reacting angrily will put even more people at harm, will kill even more people. So she's in this very precarious and also frustrating position. This is a show called Pluribus, and it is on Apple TV. I consider this to be a cosmic horror show. Definitely science fiction with elements of cosmic horror. You can watch it on Apple TV. Not sponsored, but like it's just a show that I happen to see, and I highly recommend for people that are interested in science fiction and just cool ideas. Awesome show. So we got some more stuff to talk about, but have you guys seen this show? And is this something that you guys are interested in watching? And are you interested in perhaps me just covering the show as it comes out? I mean, maybe a couple episodes at a time as I do these bi-weekly streams. And if you've seen the first 2 episodes, what are you guys thinking about it? What are you guys feeling about this show? Personally, I think Apple TV is doing some really cool things with science fiction. I only saw season 1 of...
Your dryer is done.
Thank you very much. I only saw season 1 of the Foundation show, but other interesting shows have come out of Apple TV. I'm also obviously very excited for Neuromancer, and yeah, so this is definitely one that I think you guys might like. But then again, only 2 episodes out. I don't know where it ends, and a lot of times my problem with modern TV shows is they don't like to end things anymore. They don't like to end things anymore. And so what you'll have is like a whole season of a show that seems like it's building up to somewhere, and then it'll just be like, well, wait for season 2, which is exactly what happened with Alien Earth. I enjoyed Alien Earth a bunch, by the way, but you know, it was one of those shows where it's like, we're not going to give you an actual ending. We're not going to give you anything conclusive. You got to wait till season two because everybody wants this whole big franchise, and some things can do that, and then some things completely miss the mark and they leave you totally deflated when they're depending on a season two. And then not everything gets a season two, so it'll just be like, you never know with modern shows these days. You never know with modern shows. So thanks everybody for joining the stream so far. If you're enjoying the stream, definitely hit the like button. Um, and yeah, so let's keep going to the other thing that I watched recently, Frankenstein. So just to move away from cosmic horror just a little bit, let's talk about Frankenstein, the new Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein. Um, so this movie is making a lot of waves right now, and before we get into this, I just want to put out into the universe that I am still waiting patiently on Del Toro's At the Mountains of Madness, right? If anybody knows him, if anybody can put the word out, At the Mountains of Madness. I know he was supposed to be making a movie. I don't know if it's in the works or if someone is planning on making it or not. But I know that Guillermo del Toro did have an interest in making it years ago, and that it was supposedly put on hold because of Ridley Scott's Prometheus, because he thought there's talk that the themes and ideas were going to be too similar, right? And if you know the original idea behind Prometheus, you know, then you probably get why. And if you've seen Prometheus, you probably get why. And I've done a video covering this topic before as well. But I always like to put it out there in the universe I always like to put it out there into the universe that Guillermo del Toro, if you ever see this, obviously Guillermo del Toro will never see this, but we still very much want the At the Mountains of Madness film, but I digress. Someone says, will this stream stay up? This stream will stay up. This stream will not go to members only, and this stream will stay up. And I'm planning on doing more streams in the future, guys, as I said. But yeah, this stream will definitely stay up. So before we talk about the movie, which I enjoyed, let's talk about Frankenstein a little bit. So Frankenstein by Mary Shelley is often cited as the first science fiction novel ever, and I don't know if people know that or what, but yeah, it's often cited as the first science fiction novel ever. And I've been doing a lot of research on the history of science fiction, and there were definitely other proto science fiction works before Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but generally speaking, people consider this one to be the first. And I think that probably rings true. This is a book that was thought up during the Industrial Revolution, and the entire novel is essentially, I should say, okay, wait, how should I say? It's a reaction to the new technological developments of the time. And it was truly a revolution. You know, the sciences, medicine, it was all evolving and changing rapidly. And so was our understanding of the world. So was our understanding of human anatomy. So if we look at the time that Mary Shelley was writing this book, you know, the early 1800s, 1816 through 1818 approximately, then this was a period that's, you know, it's steeped in debates about electricity and anatomy and the nature of life. It's a very fast changing world, and lots of people had a lot of ideas about where we were headed as a society, where the world was headed, because the possibilities of science at the time seemed limitless, because science was changing the entire face of the planet at the time. So yes, Frankenstein is the first ever science fiction novel because it is in fact a fiction novel about science. Which I think Frankenstein in popular culture, people don't really think about it like that, but it definitely was. So yeah, it definitely was. It is about a learned man, a scientist essentially, using his knowledge of science and of human anatomy and the human body to animate non-living flesh. And of course, this leads to disastrous ends. Now, if you saw my most recent video on YouTube, if you saw my most recent video on techne and episteme, then you'll know what I mean when I say that Frankenstein is a romantic critique of unchecked techne, right? And we talked about how, all of this relates to, these Platonic ideas. So, yeah, so that's the book Frankenstein. And the movie itself, which is a little bit different from the Frankenstein, but I think it's the most similar Frankenstein adaptation that I've ever seen, but it's definitely different in some key areas. But it maintains, that main theme. It maintains the main theme. It's a cautionary tale against the hubris of scientific ambition, right? So just because you can create something does not mean that you should create something. It's about metaphorically. I want people to always understand that when I say this, it's metaphorically. It's about man grasping at the power of God, right? This book, this story is a retelling of the tale of Prometheus, right? Who stole fire from the Olympians and was punished, and I think people do know this. This book was actually originally called The Modern Prometheus. That was the name of the original Mary Shelley book. And I think Mary Shelley actually published it under a pseudonym at first. But the original book was called The Modern Prometheus. And in the movie, at some point, a character refers to Victor Frankenstein as Prometheus. Like, they straight up say it. So, by trying to create life to seize the power of God for himself, he's tempting fate, and he's punished for it just as Prometheus was. So, yeah. Let's talk about some of the differences between the movie and the book, right? So the thing is, the monster, I think, the monster is sympathetic in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The monster is definitely sympathetic, but Guillermo del Toro made him a lot more sympathetic, I would say. And one of the main ways that he does this is through his connection with Elizabeth. And this is one of the main changes, but it works. They make it work, but this is one of the main changes from the book to the movie. Elizabeth in the movie definitely humanizes him. And by the way, spoilers for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Guys, if you don't know what happens in Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, I mean, it's the story of Frankenstein. So if you know Frankenstein, what happens in Frankenstein, you know what happens. But spoilers, by the way. So, whereas in the movie, she humanizes the monster, right? She dies saving him from Victor. And in the book, it's very, very different in the book, right? In the book, the monster kills Elizabeth as no other reason than to punish Victor. He kills Elizabeth on Victor's wedding night to punish Victor. And also, Elizabeth is Victor's fiance, also in the book. So that's a little bit different. So whereas in the movie, they're making the monster a lot more sympathetic. They're making Elizabeth more of a character, whereas in the book, I feel like she just kind of represents purity and innocence. They definitely change it, and Elizabeth's death is Victor's fault, right? So rather than the monster killing Elizabeth to spite Victor, the monster actually loved Elizabeth, and Victor kills Elizabeth and has to suffer from the added guilt of killing her. So I thought that was an interesting change, and that's a very Guillermo del Toro thing, right? Guillermo del Toro always romanticizes the monster, which is and I mean that we've all seen Shape of Water. We've all seen Shape of Water. You get what I mean by that. So it's very Guillermo del Toro to have kind of like the monster love story, and I like that. And I also think that the ending of the book is way sadder than the ending of the movie. The ending of the movie is kind of sad, but the ending of the book is way sadder if you think about it, because for one, there's no, I don't know if I have a screen, but there's no reconciliation in the book between Victor and the monster like there is in the movie. Like the monster is never forgiven in Victor's eyes. And in fact, Victor dies before the monster gets to him in the inn in the Arctic. So there's that. Victor hates the monster to his very end, right? And the monster is, in the end, left never accepted by his creator, and left never accepted by the world. And in the scene at the end of the movie where it kind of feels like, oh, what journeys will Frankenstein go on now? He's walking off into the Arctic. Let's see where what possibilities unlimited. In the book, it's very clear that he's going off into the Arctic wilderness to die, to find a way to kill himself. Because everything, the world hates him, his creator hated him, and he was just never accepted by anything. Like there was none of this tenderness from Elizabeth. I think the closest thing would be the blind man, right? The blind man was pretty accurate to what happened in the book, but then that final moment is it's not like it is in the movie, which I think is a lot more hopeful. So Mary Shelley wasn't trying to tell a happy, hopeful story. She was trying to say that when you play with the power of God, it ends in darkness, and it ends in sadness and death and woe and destruction. Right? The monster haunted Victor to his end, and it's slightly different, but I still like the movie a lot. The movie has a really gothic beauty to it too, right? That I would say I really love. Absolutely stunning, and that's to be expected from Guillermo del Toro. There was a couple of shots. That reminded me of Villeneuve's Dune. There's a scene when Charles Dance is in this, and he arrives, and there's a scene where Victor Frankenstein's mother is waiting outside of their estate, and her robes and her shawl is kind of blowing in the wind. I don't have a screenshot of it, but it's in the beginning of the movie if you want to see it. And it just looks like, that Dune shot when they're arriving on Arrakis and it blowing in the wind, and it looks all epic and crazy. But Guillermo del Toro is no slouch for stylistic movies and having things be visually beautiful. But I think that when something like Dune comes out and it's so visually striking and so unique, then obviously people are inspired by that. Zack Snyder, Rebel Moon. Obviously people are inspired by that type of thing. But like I said, visually Guillermo del Toro is always gonna wow. So Frankenstein, I think, gets double thumbs up from me. It's a really good movie. Respectful of the themes of the original Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Even though it has a more hopeful ending than the book, this is not a retelling of Frankenstein. It's not like a Marvel movie. It's not like let's make Frankenstein into like a hero, or it's not like that. It has the same themes of scientific hubris, going too far, and thinking before you create things. And I just loved seeing it dramatized. I love seeing, probably the best adaptation of Frankenstein. Probably I would say. I loved seeing it, and I thought it did such a good job in showing why the monster is so angry, because Victor is so particularly cruel to him. Keeping him chained up, like not. It's just great, because essentially what you have in the beginning is the monster's basically newborn. So he's finding his footing. He's trying to find language, and you have Victor, who's very impatient because the monster isn't immediately his vision of what he wants the monster to be. So he kind of he rejects his creation, and he tries to destroy his own creation, and he doesn't let it become what it could have become. The thing is, if Victor Frankenstein had been kinder to the monster, if Victor Frankenstein had been more patient with the monster, if Victor Frankenstein had showed a little bit of intimacy and care to his son, his creation, none of this would have turned out the way it turned out. Victor would have ultimately got what he wanted in the end, because what he created was an intelligent creation. You created an intelligent creation, but you didn't allow it to bloom and to grow into what it should have been. So he was a very, very, very bad dad. So 2 thumbs up. Guillermo del Toro, you don't miss. Actually, he misses sometimes, but usually Guillermo del Toro, he's going to bring the fire every time. Watch Frankenstein, guys, if you have not seen Frankenstein. It gets thumbs up from Quinn's Ideas. And yeah, tell me about it, guys. Have you seen it? Are you interested in watching Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein at all? Are you guys Guillermo del Toro fans? Let me just look through my starred comments as well. Oh, thank you so much, Trusted Flagger. Your work on Three-Eyed Problem got my father to read the entire series, and entire series. We give us something to bond over. Oh, that's so awesome. I'm very grateful for your content and entry for people to the series. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your super chat, and thank you so much for saying that. And thank you, um, Sela? Sela? Is that how you say that? For becoming a member. Thank you, Darth Patty, for your gift. And thank you so much, Solon, for becoming a member. All right. All right. So someone says, I read the book and love the movie. Yeah, it was a really, really good movie. Really good movie. Guillermo del Toro doesn't miss. So, we do got another movie to talk about. And this, we're moving back into cosmic horror. Hey, my guy, Dan, we spent the first 30 minutes or so talking about Pluribus. So you just got to rewind to the beginning of this stream, and we talked about the first two episodes of Pluribus. I love it. It's great. If you guys want, then sometimes while the show's airing, then we'll just do more streams and talk about Pluribus and other things as well. Because I am planning on doing more streams. And hey, as I said, if you guys are enjoying the stream, hit the like button. It helps things out with the algorithm and all that jazz. So yeah, that's Frankenstein. But this next movie, I'm really, really curious if anybody has seen this movie. We're going to move back into cosmic horror. And this is an independent film. Have you guys seen this movie? I need to know if you guys have seen this movie. Because, wow, I saw this movie like a few years ago. And then I recently watched it again last night. And I was like, I have to cover this movie. Because it is great, pure Lovecraftian horror. And honestly, if you guys want to watch this movie, I'm not going to spoil it too heavily. But if you want to watch it, maybe just watch this and then come back and look at the stream later, because this is a really good Lovecraft horror movie. Low budget, independent film. It's not like a big budget thing. It's just some people, some independent people that really care about telling a cool Lovecraft story, and it hits. It hits. Now, for you to for you to understand how cool this movie is, I just want you to know this movie opens up straight up with a Lovecraft quote. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. Right? So it literally opens up with that quote. So that's how you know you're in for some serious Lovecraft stuff. And I also thought it would be funny to cover this movie because in my Alien stream, which was my review of all the Aliens movies, I talked about how Alien vs. Predator 2 was just like a dumb movie about two stupid brothers. This is a cool movie about two stupid brothers. I mean, one stupid brother and one brother that's not as stupid, but you know, you're dumb for even getting yourself into the situation. You know, I'm the type of person that like as soon as I'm not driving out to meet your cult, right? I've seen Midsummer, I've seen both versions of Wicker Man. You know, we're not doing this cult shit. That's personally how I feel about it. But yeah, let's just get to a rough synopsis of this movie. Let's just talk about the beginning part of the movie before stuff really hits the fan. So we got two brothers, and these two brothers, they escaped a cult, what they describe as like a UFO death cult, like years ago. Like when they were much, much younger, they escaped a UFO death cult. And they're just kind of like living in the real world. No, going too far. They're just kind of like living in the real world now. You know, they've kind of got mediocre lives. And the younger brother is very unhappy, right? He has all of these nostalgic memories connected to their time in the cult because he was very young when they got out of the cult. But the older brother essentially insists that the cult was gonna commit mass suicide, that it was this crazy death cult, and the older brother is like, I saved us. Stop longing for your memories of this old cult because it wasn't like what you thought it was. But, you know, the younger brother insists, he thinks they got pulled out of the cult for no reason. You know, he misses the real food, you know, vegetables and real food compared to, you know, like the processed food that they eat in the real world. He misses the social warmth of the cult, like the bonfires and the family time. He hates, you know, the unfulfilling life that they have outside of the cult. So he wants to visit the cult again. And that's the premise of the story. The younger brother wants to visit the cult again. And even though the older brother, he keeps insisting that your memory is wrong. It's not what you remember it is. We should we shouldn't go, but he agrees to do it for his brother because he's very unhappy, and and the older brother admits that he never directly saw anything that was terrifying. He just kind of has a vague memory of bad things happening, or just he has a vague impression that bad things were going to happen. Now, I just want to stop there to say that, like, and a lot of times in Lovecraftian works, there's this kind of like indication that, like, when you come into contact with the strange or the cosmic or the weird, that these entities or beings or whatever they are, they conceal themselves, right? They conceal themselves because the darkness does not want to be known. You know? Like, if you've ever read It by Stephen King, which I hate the It movie adaptations, but the book is so interesting because that town, Derry, where that cosmic entity, It, lives, right? It's there, and when you're in the town, you'll know it's there. But when you leave, the further you move from that place, the more you forget that it was even real or that it ever existed, because these things conceal themselves. And I got the distinct impression that that might have been what was happening in this book, because they left so long ago that it all kind of starts to seem fake. It all kind of starts to seem like maybe that didn't happen. Maybe I didn't see what I saw. But anyway, they decide to go to visit the cult again. On the way there, they witness some strange stuff, like birds are behaving weirdly in the sky. You know, they drive up to the camp. They're greeted by the cult members, like all the people that they used to know, but they're just older now. And, you know, everything seemed... There's this eerie... kind of an eerie sense of calm, an eerie sense of pleasantness, but nothing like extremely off-putting. You know, you've seen these cult movies. Now, it starts off soft, but it's not extremely off-putting. But then at night, they start to witness strange things, and one of the strange things they witness, and this is one of the best scenes in the movie, I think, one of the creepiest scenes in the movie, is that they're doing this tug of war ritual, and there's this rope that's attached to something in the night sky. You know, it could be attached to a tree, but I mean, it kind of looks like it's just going straight up in the sky. Right? And the brothers don't really know what to make of this. It's kind of like, what is that attached to? And it's kind of like this tug of war ritual. So this is the first hint that things are not exactly as they appear. And then other eerie events happen during their time there. And all of these events that are occurring are hinting at the presence of something. Of something, right? And the older brother is shaken up by this. He's very shaken, but the younger brother is being swayed by the ways of these people. He's being swayed by the warmth and the memories. But even he feels something there, but he's just kind of more okay with it. So essentially, there's a scene where the older brother confronts one of the cult members, and he basically asks, he's like, I know something is here. And he says, I might have felt something when I was younger, but I couldn't place it or name it, but now that I'm here as an adult, there's something here. And the other cult guy basically says he needs to find out for himself, right? And shit keeps getting eerier. Like, there's an appearance of two moons in the sky at one point, and the two moons, I don't have a screen, oh, there it is right there, the two moons, right? What's interesting about these two moons, and I really love it when movies and TV shows and science fiction does this, is that, you know, there are weird light refraction things that happen in the sky all the time, right? Light is weird. Science is weird. Sometimes weird things appear in the sky. It's a weird mirroring effect that makes the moon appear to be two moons, right? But is it just a weird mirroring effect that makes it look like there's two moons? Or is this an indication that the place where they are is slightly beyond, right? It's not clear whether this effect represents the presence of some type of entity, or it represents the fact that this place, this camp where this cult lives, is a part of some other realm. It's a part of Todash space, if you use the Stephen King terminology. It's a thinny. It's a place where the barriers between our plane of existence, our physical realm, where like our minds can comprehend, and whatever lies beyond that. This place, for whatever reason, it's a part of cosmic unreality, just a little bit. There's a part of it that's part of cosmic unreality. So, yeah. Now, I did write down some more notes about this movie, but I don't want to get into extreme spoiler territory because I want you guys to watch this movie. And I will just say things become stranger and more abstract from there. And I don't want to spoil it because it's not a very famous movie. It's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can totally watch this movie without having to pay for it. So if you want to watch it, please watch it because this movie deserves the attention. But I don't want to spoil the ending because I just want to set it up because it's very creepy. It's a very creepy premise. And I want you guys to go and watch this movie so you can see how it all works out. Because I have some notes here that I'm just now realizing this is too much of a spoilerific thing. And I want you guys to see this movie. So let's just say things get stranger and more abstract from there. And I really like this movie because it's an independent film. So, independent movies, that means someone had a drive to get it made. Someone had a real mental drive to get this movie made, and I really appreciate that. And it's rooted in a fundamental understanding of what makes cosmic horror scary. The implied. Why is that rope in the sky so scary? Because of the implication that something in the sky, impossible, is holding on to the rope. That's what makes it scary. The implied, not the seen. The incomprehensible, not the tangible. And I know a lot of people really like, this movie is called The Endless, by the way. A lot of people really like James Wan movies. And no shade at anybody that likes James Wan stuff, right? And in fact, the original Insidious and The Conjuring, I think those are both James Wan. I'm right. That's James Wan, right? Insidious and Conjuring, that's all his stuff. I know that James Wan has a tendency to show the monster too much, right? So this, in my opinion, will often take away from the mystery and the horror. And especially when it's just CGI, right? Especially when it's just CGI. And that's the big reason, too, that I really can't get into those Stephen King It movie adaptations. I just hate them so much because it's all CGI. A CGI clown with a bunch of teeth is not scary to me. Like every 15 minutes, the clown pops up and goes oogity boogity boogie, and that's supposed to be scary. And I don't want to. If you constantly show the monster, it loses everything that makes it scary. Especially when it's CGI, it just looks like a polished CGI nonsense. Basically, it's not scary. And but this movie is great. The implication of the entity is more terrifying than the entity itself. And I think mostly we can agree, that even the scariest parts of something like Call of Cthulhu, the Lovecraft story, are the parts before Cthulhu actually even makes an appearance. Right? It's the parts where the protagonist is going through his uncle's things, learning about the ancient cults and piecing together the world's old secrets, right? That's the real good part. That's the real good part. Timmy V says, Tim Curry was terrifying, though. And I agree, Tim Curry was definitely terrifying as Pennywise, even though I think the miniseries also focused on the clown too heavily. Because I've talked about it before, but, it is not the clown. I feel like, if anything, the clown more represents the fact that the being has woken up again, right? In the book, there's the scene where Mike Hamlin is going around, gathering bits of information and studying and trying to figure out the history of Derry. And, there's all these people that saw a clown at some point in their life doing something, whether the clown was passing out balloons, whether the clown was like laughing. The clown was doing something, right? But it doesn't stand out as an evil clown, right? It's just the clown. It's just one form that this being that's basically always been there manifest as sometimes. And I like that, and I think that's a vibe that all of the adaptations have kind of missed. I've been trying to watch the Welcome to Derry show, Personally, I enjoyed the first two episodes more than the most recent episode. Again, it leans so much on the CGI and it doesn't look very good. And I think that when you have something like that, it makes it not terrifying. And the vibe of those It movies and the vibe of the show also is very Stranger Things. It's very like made for teen. And I think that the vibe of the horror of the It book by Stephen King is a very adult horror. You know, I mean, I think one of the major themes of it is coming back to your hometown as an adult, and realizing that you've misremembered your childhood, and realizing that there was a lot of horror that you repressed from your youth, and realizing that things were not as they seemed. And I don't think that's something that someone that's young enough for the audience that they're going for the It movies and for the Dairy Show, I don't think they're old enough to even recognize that element of it. And so they're very much geared towards an audience that's not me, even though I love the book so much. But it is what it is. So let me just go over the stars and super chats that I have so far. Thank you so much, Michael Gonzalez. I think Frankenstein is a 21st century adaptation, not reflecting the value and thought and morality of the early 1800s. I think you're right, and I think that that is something that is done with every single adaptation ever. And I know that people judge adaptations very, very harshly these days, and I've been guilty of that myself. But the thing is, every single adaptation that's ever been made throughout history has updated itself for the times. The Disney 1938 version of Snow White is not the story of Snow White. It's not the story of Snow White. It's the Disney version of Snow White. The new Disney version of Snow White, it's not the story of Snow White. It's the new Disney version of Snow White that reflects the values of this time. The old one was the version of Snow White that reflected the values of that time. It's just a random example, but that's true for literally everything. You can never separate an adaptation from the time that it's coming out in. That's true for things that from when you were a kid that you're very nostalgic about. That's true for things right now. So I think that it's important for us to, look at things level-headedly and not react aggressively when things are different from the adaptation that we remember, or even when they're a little bit different from the book. I think that the themes and ideas are important to maintain, the core, but some things obviously have to be changed, and I think that's always true. Thank you, BF, for your super chat. Very much appreciated. Do you like Dead Space original, not the remake? Now, is that a video game? Because if it's a video game, I have not played. I'm sorry, but I'm not really, I think Dead Space is a video game, right? But I'm not really like a shooter, scary video game type of person. I'm more of like a laid back video game person, Sim City, Surviving Mars, Frostpunk strategy games, I'll build houses on The Sims, stuff like that. I'm not really like a shoot 'em up, like avoid the alien monster in space. But if it's a book, I probably haven't read it either, so yeah. So Dirty Nero Man says, love your work, man. Keep up the analysis. Legitimately, you add bright spots to the bothersome dark days. Well, I really appreciate your wonderful comment, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for becoming a member. And finally, Mark Merck says you should check out the Magnus Archives podcast, all kinds of horror that gets more cosmic further on. In my opinion, the best horror I think you might mean Pantheon. I think you mean Pantheon. So I think that's what you mean. But yeah. I'll try and check out that the Magnus Archives podcast. I will definitely try and check that out. Did I ever play The Witcher 3? I actually did play The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is good because that game is more like a you can go at a slower pace with The Witcher, and I like the lore, lots of lore in that game. So yeah. So we're gonna move on to the next thing we're gonna talk about, and this section is really just kind of a preview for my video that's coming out later this weekend, right? So people often ask me what I think the best modern cosmic horror is. And I've mentioned this author a few times. Jeff Vandermeer. Oh my God. The Area X books are this might be the most for me book series ever. So there's 4 books out right now. There's Annihilation, which you might have seen the movie Annihilation with I think Natalie Portman. There's Authority, Acceptance, and Absolution is the newest one, which I've been studying, and I'm getting through it, and the video should be out this weekend. It's hard to know how to even talk about this insane cosmic horror sci-fi book series without resorting to making a formal YouTube video essay script. So I might go back and forth on this a little bit because it's a very complex series, and yeah, in a weird way, it's almost like a really mature version of the X-Files, right? And if you've read it, you kind of might know what I mean. Someone says, "Is Absolution the end?" Absolution is the end and the beginning. I don't know how else to describe it. But it's kind of like a version of the X-Files, but more adult, right? So you got government conspiracies, you've got foreign alien entities affecting the Earth, you've got nebulous, competing, shadowy interest at every corner. But Area X is also has this psychedelic, disorienting vibe, which is very unnerving, but also deeply Lovecraftian. The cosmic horror elements are very, very heavy throughout this entire book series. And there's also a lot of deciphering involved in this series, which I really enjoy, but I think other people might not enjoy as much. Which Vandermeer novel you should start with? You should start with Annihilation. Start with Annihilation. Anyway, there's a lot of deciphering involved, which I also really enjoy, but I think it can be disorienting to some people. So some people might just prefer to watch my videos. And by the way, I already have 2 videos on Area X. One of them is over an hour long. One of them is just about a specific part, and then the other one is an hour-long video covering the first 3 books, and then not even all of the content of the first 3 books. I'm just trying to create a big picture of the first 3 books, so you can watch that hour-long video if you need to catch up, especially before my video on Absolution, right? So you should probably do that. But anyway, so these books have lots of different characters going over various old files, various old notes or clues, and everyone is attempting to make sense of all of this. And all of it continues to get infinitely more complex as you go on. And then you start to see that maybe even time might not be what it appears to be within Area X. So what is Area X? Like I said, I've already made two videos. But the one this weekend will focus on Absolution. But look at this, look at the picture that's on screen. Like, what does that make you think of? I found this image on Reddit, and somebody was just like, this makes me think of Area X. And I'm like, you know what? This picture does make me think of Area X. Because it's like nature, but there's also like this sense of corruption, and there's also this sense of disorientation. There's also like this psychedelic thing happening as well. You know, it's kind of hard to say what it is. It's something that came to where we are from somewhere else, right? You can put it like that. And it came from a place of great distance. And there's something in the newest book that I'll share in Absolution that suggests to me that it was actually on Earth for a very long time, but something we did awakened it. Something we did awakened it. And this is almost certainly related to the Science and Seance Brigade. The Science and Seance Brigade. Brigade. Why is that so hard to say? So this is a secretive organization backed by another secret organization that is within another organization. So I've talked about the SSB and the Southern Reach and Central in those other videos. And I'll go into even more detail on my video on Absolution. But essentially what you need to know is that the SSB, the Science and Seance Brigade, operate from the island off the coast of the Forgotten Shore. The island is called Failure Island. And the Forgotten Shore is basically where the main events of the series take place, right? And this island is where they do their rituals slash experiments. And these rituals or experiments involve the lighthouse on Failure Island, and they also involve the lighthouse on the Forgotten Shore. And the SSB is led by a man named Henry and his sister Suzanne, and they are spiritualist slash scientist slash occultist. And the nature of these experiments is certainly elusive to the reader, but it's undoubtedly connected to the creation, or I would say awakening, of Area X. And here is a quote in Absolution that I think really implies this, right? So listen to this. Listen to this. So this is just a quote from Absolution that I think implies that whatever Area X was, it was here for a long time and it was dormant, and that we somehow woke it up. What do you think happened during the storm? Manifestation of the foreign entity, he said in a solemn, almost worshipful tone. And how do you define foreign entity? An entity that is foreign, sir. Can you elaborate? Old Jim asked, and he could not keep a current of sarcasm from his voice. An old, old force in the world. Old Jim did not like that answer. It sounded too mysterious. It conjured up an ancient army headed toward a gap in the world filled with green light, as if some religion had infiltrated Central. This way, he kept encountering a quasi-mystical element, even in how Jack talked about where he got his intel. How would you name it? Old Jim asked him, and he noticed how close the medic had drifted towards him. Unnameable, sir. That is what the Seance and Science Brigade is here for. To name it? Yes, sir. To name it. Right? So this sequence takes place, it takes place before Area X is created, because Absolution is kind of like a prequel and a sequel at the same time. So this part is before Area X is created. So he says that the SSB is here to name it. So they haven't named it yet. So whatever experiments that they're doing in trying to name it will ultimately unleash whatever it is, right? So Area X is this region on the Gulf Coast. Well, it was once just a region and, a little town and a forest. But now it's something that changes everything it touches. It twists the DNA and the minds of everything that it interacts with. It mixes and mashes and it recreates, and it seems to be working towards some kind of incomprehensible purpose. And also, it's spreading. And that's kind of a simple explanation of it. It's not clear if it's a machine or if it's living or if it's both, though it is referred to in the book at some point as a made thing. It's a made thing. The made thing came here from some other place or something like that. But what is clear is that this thing, Area X, is an entity beyond our perceptions, and essentially human minds stand no chance against it whatsoever. And Absolution, like I said, is kind of a prequel, but it's more complex because I don't have time to fully get into all of this, but now time is involved, right? And, the time being kind of weird existed throughout the books, but by the time we get to this fourth book, Absolution, things become quite timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. So essentially, what this book makes crystal clear is that time is much, much different inside of Area X than outside of it. Once you have crossed the barrier, I don't think you're necessarily stepping into the same time. You could step into an area before the expedition. You could step into Area X 10 years after the first expedition. And to me, that explains why the rabbits, I think we talked about this in my earlier video. Sorry if some of you guys are lost, because I've done other videos on this and I'm skipping stuff because it's a lot. So that explains why the rabbits that we see in, I think, book 1 or 2, that they did those experiments and they sent them through the border and then they could never find them again. That explains why those rabbits in Absolution appear 25 years before that event, before Area X even appeared, because they have no control over what happens when something touches that border. They don't know where it goes, and they don't know what it becomes, and they don't know how Area X changes that thing to fit its purpose. But they can't stop going in. They can't stop feeding it. They keep feeding it more life, more souls, more monsters. Like it's very very interesting. But in a sense, there's time travel, right? And in the ending of Absolution, I think what is implied is that what we know from the previous books might not align anymore. So the stuff that happened in the previous books, it might happen differently again. And that's because at the end of Absolution, we see that there was more than one survivor of the first exposition. It seems to be that there was more than one survivor, which changes everything that we know about the previous books, that Laurie was the only survivor. If there was another survivor, that means that history did not happen the same. History did not happen the same, so things changed. So what's being made clear here is that Area X doesn't just want the future of the world, the future of humanity, the future of the universe. It doesn't just want the future. It wants the past as well. As it reaches its tendrils out into the future and spreads and takes everything that it can touch, it's also reaching into the past and claiming the past at the same time. Which is, if that's not one of the most mind-blowing, mind-boggling science fiction ideas ever, then I don't know what is. And as I said, we'll definitely go into this more detail in the video on Absolution this weekend. But I think that's so cool, and it further establishes the incomprehensible nature of the entity itself. It's incomprehensible. You can't understand it. It doesn't make sense to our perception. It doesn't make sense to our human minds that something can be spreading into the past and spreading into the future at the same time, and then changing things in a way that doesn't even make sense to us. It seems random to us. It seems incomprehensible, but it has some purpose, this foreign entity does. So I really enjoy trying to decipher this series. I really enjoy taking the new things presented in Absolution and comparing them to like the things in the older books. But I don't want to completely undercut the video that's coming out this weekend. And plus my thoughts are better organized in video essay format than they could ever be on a live stream. And in the meantime, you have my other Area X videos to watch, so definitely check those out. So, Absolution. Great book. Great book. Trippy cosmic horror. And yeah, tell me, have any of you guys read the Annihilation series? Have you picked up Absolution? You know anything about it? What's your favorite cosmic horror? If you have any. Looks like I got a super chat. Someone says, almost uncanny how your reading taste match almost uncanny how your reading taste match my bookshelf. People feel seen when you post a video. Also, we flash back to that. Yeah, interesting. The bear scene from Annihilation ruled. Oh, I love the movie Annihilation. Very different from the book, but I definitely love the movie. Definitely love the movie. I love that. I love the music and the movie. I love the ending sequence with the doppelgangers. Doppelgangers are a big part of the book. For some reason, Area X tends to remake people in some way. It remakes them. So it's a very, very interesting thing. So if you guys have been enjoying the stream so far, please, please, please feel free to hit the like button. It really helps out the channel a bunch, and it really helps out the YouTube algorithm. Helps things stay flowing and all that jazz. So I've gotten to the end of the planned stuff that I had to talk about. We talked about we talked about Pluribus. We talked about The Endless, great science fiction movie that I recommend to everybody. We talked about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which had some different ideas from the book, but I think is still probably the best adaptation of Frankenstein ever. I mean, it's Guillermo del Toro. He's an artist, like him or not, like his movies or not. He's an actual artist, and I think that is probably the most important thing right now, is that we need actual artists making actual things that they're actually passionate about. I think that is so, so important. So if someone like Guillermo del Toro has an idea about something like Frankenstein, a classic story, and they feel like they can deliver something new and unique and interesting and add something to it, then I'm all for it. I want more classic science fiction adaptations. I want more great artists and great creators of things producing things like this. So, Frankenstein, excellent. And then also, same thing for Pluribus. More of this type of thing, more science fiction, more original ideas, more original takes on tropes, right? Because you might have seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you might have seen, hive mind stuff before, but it's also awesome to see a unique interpretation of it. So someone says, what happened to Organism 8196? Organism 8196 made an appearance in my most recent Halloween special, which some of you guys didn't watch, but it's out there. I did a Halloween special on vampires, and I think it's a really good video. And Organism makes a little bit of a cameo. In my little canon, he's gone back to outer space to be with his kind. So yeah, if you guys don't know, I used to have a little sidekick guy named Organism who's kind of like this little energy ball that would banter with me on some of my older videos. So yeah, that's where Organism is. Someone says the color out of space. Yeah, I would love a color out of space movie that's like the book. I know a lot of people are big fans of the Nicolas Cage Color Out of Space, which is get more comfortable. The Nicolas Cage Color Out of Space, which is certainly an interesting movie, but it's very, very not like the Lovecraft story, which I much prefer. Whereas you have like an investigator, can't talk anymore. You have an investigator going out and trying to piece together the events that have already occurred, which I think is more effective for telling a horror story. Whereas the Nicolas Cage one felt more like a dark comedy to me. But thoughts on Dracula? So are you asking about Dracula, the Bram Stoker book, or are you asking about the Nosferatu movie that came out last year? Which isn't Dracula, by the way. Nosferatu is not Dracula. Nosferatu is Count Orlok. And yes, Nosferatu is based on the book Dracula. It is different. And the movie that just came out, Nosferatu, is a remake of the movie Nosferatu, and it is not an adaptation of Dracula, which I think people don't necessarily know. So they're different. They're different stories, basically. I mean, they start off similar, but they're different stories. Trust me. Thoughts on the movie Transcendence? Have I seen Transcendence? Let's see. Oh, I never saw that. I never saw that. That's the Johnny Depp movie. I don't think I ever saw Transcendence. Do you guys like that movie? I think I heard kind of bad things about it when it was coming out. I think I heard some bad things about Transcendence and I never kind of gave it a shot. Someone says, there's a black and white movie of Color Out of Space. Huh, is there? I never saw it, I don't think. Someone says, you have a great reading voice, Quinn. Thank you so much, and thank you for saying that, because part of the reason I want to do more streams is because no matter what I do, people think my voice is AI, and I don't know what to do about it, other than to just show that I'm not AI and appear on camera more often and just be more present on YouTube in order to distinguish myself from like the plethora of AI channels that now exist. So, hello, I'm real. I'm not an AI avatar. But, you know, I will say this just quickly. This whole thing of people accusing my voice of not being my voice existed long before AI voices. Like, basically, as soon as people saw what I looked like, I had the suspicion that, like, my voice wasn't my voice. That people were like, oh, this is clearly someone else's voice dubbed. Or, oh, this is fake somehow. Or I don't know what it is. But that's something that I've basically been fighting the entire time that I've been on YouTube. And I guess I could take it as a compliment because it's like, my voice is so good that everyone thinks it's fake. But it is a little bit like, okay, chill out. What do I gotta do to prove that I'm a real person here? Are you the one they call Q? That is me. That is me. Someone says, that's exactly what AI would say. Oh, no, I've been caught. I've been caught. You know, the AI conversation is very interesting right now because AI, it co-opts human language and human patterns of speaking. So not only is AI everywhere, but also things that have always existed now seem like AI to people, right? Like even like certain phrases that I've used my entire YouTube career. Like I like to say, like, in a sense, that's an AI phrase now, right? So if you use certain phrases and certain ways of speaking, a lot of that is now associated with AI. So people hear it and then they hear my voice and they assume this is AI, even though I've been making YouTube videos for 11 freaking years. But yeah, that's the world. That's the world that we're living in, and things are changing rapidly, and we can't just be like, no, they gotta. The world can't change. We just gotta kind of flow with it and move along with it, and that's all we can really do. That's all we can really do. Let's see. Someone says the latest George R. R. Martin book got busted using AI art. Which George R. R. Martin book? Huh, which one is it now? It's another not Winds of Winter book? I'll see you later. I'll see you later, computational biologist. I'll see you later. You have a great one. Yeah, which book was that? Which book was that? That's interesting. Because George R. R. Martin, we were talking about a huge author, and they've released entire like bound copies full of all this art from all of these different people. Wait, the A Feast for Crows illustrated version has AI art in it? I can't even remember if I have that one or not. I know for a fact that I have the first 3 illustrated A Song of Ice and Fire books, but I was definitely disappointed by them because the art was all over the place. Any news on the Lie Behind the Star? Yes, we did do a post at the beginning of the month about it. I got a message from Gio, our artist, saying that he was going to take a little bit more time to complete things than we initially wanted. And, you know, that's on me. You know, it's not on him. It's on me because I was the one that announced that we would have it sooner than it's actually turned out to be. But we did do a post to let you guys know where we are, to let you guys see the character designs that we've been working out, and to let you guys see where the pages are. So we did do a little update. You can check that out on the website. And yeah, just that's what it is. You know, it's been a frustrating process getting this book out, guys, because it's like, you know, we did the Tadia book, we got that one out, that one was a process, and then we set out to do this new one, and it's been a long process because, as you know, we had to change artist completely after like the majority of the work had already been done. So we got ghosted by an artist, and I think it was just not necessarily creative differences, but some kind of, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it was miscommunications. So that's the reason that we no longer work with Matthew Weldon. Too many miscommunications, and I don't think he was connected to the work in the way that he should have been. So he wasn't delivering his best work, and we had a deadline to hit, and he wasn't responding. So we had to cut him loose, and we had to restart the art from the beginning because we can't do 80% of the book with one artist design and then like keep and force another artist to draw in the style of the other artist. We had to start from scratch for the authenticity of the book itself. So yeah, we've had to redraw everything from scratch. We've had to redraw every character from scratch. We've had to rethink panel layouts and page design and we've had to redo every single little thing that we had already worked on. So anybody that's frustrated about the book taking longer than, you know, we initially said, I mean, I'm just as frustrated as everybody else, but you know, it's been a learning process for me. And initially I think that I trusted the wrong people. I trusted that the wrong people would be as passionate about it as I was, and that bit me and now I have to deal with the consequences. I'm the one that has to deal with the angry comments, like, where's the book? I'm the one that has to deal with, all sorts of mean stuff from people, which, I'm a little bit sensitive about that sometimes, because it is like you're putting yourself out there, and then people are going, but I know that a lot of that comes from people just wanting the book, so I understand. I totally understand. Is Tadia going to be revisited? I definitely hope to revisit Tadia in the future, because Tadia, there's so much story left for her. There's so much story left for Tadia, and I definitely do want to revisit that in the future. Someone says, but Color Out of Space is an adaptation of a 1920s story reflecting its own take. Every story reflects the changes with the times. Get with it, man. LOL. I mean, I agree. You're just quoting what I said earlier, and I think that is important too. But I would, I think what's more important to me is, the themes and ideas being the same. And I don't know if the Nicolas Cage adaptation of Color Out of Space had any themes or ideas beyond just like weird things are happening and alpacas, right? So I just would prefer a quiet movie on Color Out of Space, a quiet, eerie horror film, right? You can update it for the times, but I just would prefer a quiet, eerie, Lovecraftian horror movie. I think that'd be really freaking cool. So someone says, Winds of Winter and GTA 6 feel like those letters Stephen King got from Death Row asking how the Dark Tower ended after Wizard and Glass. Oh my goodness. I don't know what to say about George R. R. Martin. I mean, like I've always said, The Winds of Winter, I will read it when it comes out, but I don't have really that much interest in any of his prequels that are coming out at any point in time. I don't have any interest in any of the HBO TV show adaptations that are coming out. I don't care about Dunk and Egg. I don't care about House of the Dragon. I mean, I just can't be bothered. It's like I've read the books, and that was a long time in my life being very obsessed with the George R. R. Martin stuff and being very obsessed with The Song of Ice and Fire. And it's also like a little bit of a traumatizing part of my life because, like during, season 6 through season 8 of Game of Thrones, because I was so moved by how much they were butchering the book that I love so much, the books that I love so much, I wasn't shy about it. And so that invited a lot of aggressiveness onto me, which I wasn't expecting because I'm just like kind of a passionate nerd. So when you get that kind of visceral anger because people feel like you're like attacking them and pouring acid in their faces when you're criticizing a show, or not even criticizing it, sometimes just like saying something that you didn't necessarily like about it, people feel like you're throwing acid in their faces or something, and they feel the need to attack in the most gruesome, horrific ways. So I'm a little bit traumatized by all of that. So it's just like the Song of Ice and Fire community itself is a fandom that got taken to a place that like I no longer vibed with or jived with. And also I think I faced a lot of like just negativity, not just from like the fandom, but from other creators who just were a lot of mean, let's just say a lot of mean people. I don't know how to put it. A lot of meanies. I don't like it. I don't like it. Someone says, I hate that Amazon destroyed Rings of Power. I understand. Yeah, you guys. Yeah, you know how it is. You like something and then someone destroys it and it's not fun. It's not fun. Let's see. Have you ever seen the anime space opera Legends of the Galactic Heroes? I have not seen that. But I do need more anime recommendations. So thanks for that. Thank you so much. So it says, I remember you were criticizing the show way back during season 5. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's when some of it started, because I just didn't agree with some of the choices that they were making, and I would just wonder, like, why do this when you already have like this great story that you could work from the books? And it gets to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, an adaptation needs to change things, but it gets to a point where it's so different that it feels disrespectful of the source material. It like when you're literally doing the opposite of the source material, and you're literally saying the opposite of what you're putting forth the opposite theme of what the book is trying to say with this change, then like it almost reads that you don't respect the material and you don't respect George R. R. Martin's vision. Like when you're changing it so drastically, do you not trust that this story is good? It speaks to a distrust in the source material, and it also speaks to, in my opinion, a distaste for the fantasy genre. And I don't know, but David and Dan are also making the Three Body Problem show, and as you guys know, I really enjoyed the Three Body Problem Netflix show. It was very different from the books, but at the same time, it stayed true to all the themes of the books, right? And I've done hours and hours of live streaming talking about like those ideas and themes and how it all really aligns. I think a lot of people read the first book maybe and then watched the show and expected the show to just be the first book. But no, the show from the beginning has taken into account all the books, and a lot of things and characters and events that seem random to people that are only loosely familiar with the book or have only read the first book are not random at all and are in fact very important. And in fact, in that show, to me, there was very little fat in that show. Very little fat. Everything to me was relevant. And if you have read all the books and you comprehend the books, then you know how the things that are happening in the show are relevant. So I enjoyed Three Red Problems. See, I don't see, that's the thing. I don't hate David Benioff and Dan Weiss. I don't hate them. I just did not appreciate what happened to the show. And I think that's a level-headed opinion to have, right? I don't know. Someone says, how about the It series on HBO? We were just talking about that a little bit earlier. And I will say that the It show, I was enjoying the first 2 episodes. And I thought, like, it's curious how they're doing this. I noticed that the title of the show changed, right? Wasn't it just called Into Derry or Welcome to Derry at some point? And they changed it to It. Welcome to Derry. You gotta know that it's about it. It's a clown. The first 2 episodes were okay, and then it really, 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 really turned me off in the most recent episode. I thought, the cemetery scene just looked so stupid. I couldn't with the 3rd episode. It just looked so awful. It looked awful. The ghost or whatever looked stupid. Way too much CGI. There's a scene when there's a monster. At first, it's like there's a scene when there's this old man in the woods, right? And it's a creepy looking old man in the woods, right? He's creepy, and then all of a sudden they feel the need to turn him into a CGI abomination, and now he's like crab walking backwards through the wood with a mouth full of teeth, and it just doesn't look real. It doesn't look tactical. It doesn't look scary. Literally, the old man just creeping through the woods was scarier than the CGI thing that you're now doing. Right? I don't understand. CGI is not scary. Wait, am I the off one? Do you guys think CGI, sorry, someone's saying I'm quiet. Do you guys think CGI is scary? Because I don't. I feel like I've almost never seen a CGI monster or something CGI happening where I've been like, oh, that's scary. It's usually the practical effects that are scary. It's usually the atmosphere of the scene that makes it scary. And those It movies and the It show, they rely so much on the CGI that every time it kills it immediately. So it just doesn't look real. Like the Tim Curry clown with a mouth full of those tactical sharp teeth from the 90s miniseries will always be scarier than Skarsgård with his unhinged jaw with the CGI teeth. Wait, let me see if I can find the picture of it, because I'm just going to show you what I want. I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. Because I want to show you how bad this freaked me out when I was a kid. I'm going to pull up the Tim Curry teeth. Okay, how do I do this? I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Oh, I gotta stop sharing the other screen. Share screen, window, share. And move that. Wait, can you guys even see that? What? Oh, there it is. There it is. This is what I'm talking about, right? Look at that. That's freaky, right? That's freaky. He looks like he's gonna bite you. That's a scary, like, because he's a normal clown at first and he's all smiling and free. But then you keep looking and there's something off about him. He's got these razor sharp teeth. But then the new one, let's just go back. Like, it looks like this. And I'm just like, oh, well, that's not real. Well, that's CGI. And it immediately makes it not scary. It doesn't, it's not scary. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And then also to top it up, the thing about the Pennywise, the new clown, the Skarsgård version, he's always scary. Like, he always looks like this, right? He always looks like this. This is not a clown that's going to be luring children, right? Right? But this guy, right? He looks kind of friendly at first. This is a clown that would lure children. Like, he would lure you. Yeah, I was afraid of clowns when I was a kid, but he looks like a friendly clown at first, and that's the point. Is that it looks like a friendly clown, but then you pay attention and he's digging graves. Why is that friendly clown digging graves? And that's what makes it creepy, you know. And I just don't agree with the take that they have in the newer movies. I just don't agree with the take on Pennywise. Because he's supposed to look friendly at first. He's supposed to be inviting and warm. That's the disguise, right? And that's the terror of something that's Lovecraftian too. Is a lot of times these things are pretending to be something else, right? We were just talking about Absolution, the Area X trilogy, or there's 4 books now, so quadrilogy. We were just talking about that book, and there's a part where one of the scientists or one of the researchers or something, they say something like, this looks like this, but why would something have a reason to pretend to be something else? And one of the reasons that something would pretend to be something else is because it's a predator. And it's disguising itself as something innocuous and sweet so that it can lunch. I have no idea how in the new Pennywise movies, I don't know how Georgie was that stupid. Because the Skarsgård clown is clearly an evil demon. But obviously the Tim Curry one, oh yeah, it's a clown. I don't know. Generally a kid might be fooled by that. that's the point. Ranting about it too much. Ranting about it too much. It is a shape-shifting book, so they try. That is one thing I will say that in the Welcome to Derry show, whatever it's called. That's why I enjoyed the first 2 episodes more, right? Because it was like, oh yeah, because it's not a clown. It just takes the form of whatever you're most afraid of. And I liked the show because it did show some more complex fears, right? It was like the opening sequence in the first episode with the kid in the car. So the fears are more complex than just oogity boogity clown. But they can't get too complex though. And that's one of the things that the It book talks about, right? That the reason this entity even targets children in the first place is because kids have less complex fears. They are afraid of the monster in the closet. They are afraid of ghosts. Whereas the creature, it doesn't target adults as much because adults have much more complex fears because they're living in the big world, And that's what that is. And that's how that's going. And let's see if there's anything else that we can talk about. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They can think about the evil monster in the closet instead of going bankrupt and bills and like losing their house and all that stuff. Yeah, it's been fun to be live again after the first time in 5 months. And as I've been saying, I hope to do more live streams in the future. I hope to just more regular live streams just to connect with the audience. And also so people know that I'm not an AI avatar. Like, I'm a real human being. I swear to God, I'm a real boy. I swear I'm a real person. That's why I posted my donut picture. Because I wanted you guys to see the donuts. I don't know if you guys saw. I made some really, really, really nice donuts. And I put them on the YouTube community post. And like, you guys are really into the donuts. And so that was great. I also posted like my Halloween costumes. Yeah, that one got a little bit weird in the comments, but we're moving on. Got a little bit weird in the comment section of that one, but I didn't think there was any. Just to make a note, right? I didn't think there was anything wrong with the Halloween photo pictures. I feel like it's been kind of blown out of proportion. Just saying. Like because I showed it to a few other people and I was just like, is this weird? Is this? But it's, I don't know. I thought it was just for context. Like my mother-in-law took that photo, so it couldn't have been that weird, right? I don't know. So yeah, and then I didn't. I don't. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's not clicking to me because I did the Adam Roberts post to announce my video, and I also didn't realize that one was gonna go sideways. I swear to God, I didn't realize it was gonna go sideways. So then I did the picture of me like paddling, and I was like, we're going paddling, and apparently that one is still considered too much, and I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I'm trying to post more pictures, and I just want more personable things on the channel. That's all it was. We want more personable things in the channel so that you guys can get a sense for who the real Quinn is, and not just the Quinn's ideas voice. I want you guys to come to an understanding of who I am as a person, because people are complex. I'm not just a voice behind videos that reads science fiction stuff. I have interests and hobbies. I love to cook. I love to sing. I love music. I love working out. I love lots of things, and I want to share more of my life with you guys. And I think that in the age of machine intelligence, that I think I've kind of been getting this idea that in the age of machine intelligence and AI, that human connection is going to become more valuable. And I think I think that's cool. I think it's cool, and I think it's important for me to also be okay with being more visible, because you guys, if you've been following me for a while, I don't tend to be very visible on YouTube. I tend to put out the videos and to go away, because like I said earlier in the stream, when you put more of yourself out there, people then start reacting to you. And so rather than, sometimes people say negative things about a video that I made and they don't agree with it, and they'll attack the video. They'll be like, oh, this is nonsense, yada, yada, yada. But when it's me, they attack me, and they say, you're doing this, and they say, you did this, and you. And I think I just have to be more okay with that, and I have to be accepting that that's going to come with being present more. So, but I still try to not be too crazy about it. I try to not be too online. Try to stay offline as much as possible. I used to be on Twitter more, a few years ago, but I think Twitter was honestly the camel that broke the. Wait, what am I saying? The straw that broke the camel's back for me, to be honest, because Twitter, it just got to a point where it was just so toxic and mean that, I just had to get off of Twitter. And if you see posts from me on Twitter, they're like automated posts, or they're posted by someone else, because I'm not really on Twitter anymore. I'm not engaging. So if you're one of my followers on Twitter, or you're someone that I follow on Twitter, and I never interact with your posts, it's not because of you. It's just because I'm not on Twitter, and I don't allow comments on any of that stuff on Twitter, because I consider it truly, when people make hateful comments or overly negative comments or aggressive comments, I consider it truly to be an expression of human evil. It's human evil. It's that desire to hurt people through words, and I just don't vibe with that. I don't jive with that. And you have people, they make all sorts of assumptions, and they say crazy things to you, and it's very much super quippy, and it's very much the dunking. And I think that Twitter also brought out the worst things in me. It brought out bad sides of me I didn't like, because then I would feel the need to be well, screw you, or I would get angry. I'd find myself being on Twitter and being angry. So I think it's just better to I stepped away from Twitter, not really on there anymore, and it's honestly, it's been great. It's been great. It's been absolutely phenomenal, and I do not regret it. But yeah. Oh, I'm on Blue Ski. I'm on Blue Sky or Blue Ski a little bit, and I'm on Threads a little bit, but both of those are just more Twitter in my opinion. So I'm not really on those. either really. Um, but the best place to get into contact with me would be probably through email or through, I don't know, Instagram or Blue Sky or Threads or something like that. More people should follow my Instagram, though. I don't have very many followers on Instagram, which is probably good. It's probably for the best that I don't have that many followers on Instagram, to be honest. I think I got a few super chat star things. Um, will the donuts be sold to us one day? I don't know. You never know what can happen in this life, potentially. But I'm telling you, I've been trying to perfect those donuts for a while now. And when I say those donuts were better than Krispy Kreme donuts, like when I say they were the best donuts I've ever had in my life, and I don't toot my own horn like that when it comes to food. I'm very critical of like my anything that I make. But when I say those donuts were like gourmet Krispy Kreme donuts, like they came out perfectly. They came out so perfect that I shocked myself at how good they were. So I don't know, maybe. And we got I lost my mouse. Where's my mouse? Oh, there it is. Someone says, recommend Noble 5, Grey Lancer, Vampires versus Eldritch. Thanks. Thanks for the recommendation. Now, is that an anime? Is that a book? Is it a manga? What is that? Someone asked, do I do all the edits myself? I edit all of my videos myself the vast majority of the time. Recently, in the last few years, I have attempted to work with other writers in some instances, and basically in every single instance that I've worked with another writer to help me write the scripts on my YouTube videos, it has ended in disaster. So I think that I'm just gonna keep writing all the scripts myself and not working with anybody, because anytime I work with anybody, it's like some nonsense, and I have to go over everything to make sure they're not making mistakes and giving me saying something completely wrong, and then I end up saying something in a video and then it's wrong, and then I get grilled because something is wrong in a video. So just other people can't write. I'm not against having some other people come in here and help edit here and there, but I'm very particular about like my editing and all that stuff. So it's generally me, generally. So someone says, Quinn, what's your opinion on mind-machine interfacing, and do you think it will be available in our lifetime? From what I hear, yeah. From what I hear, from what I've seen, I'm not like a neuroscientist or any of that stuff. But it seems like I don't know exactly how close it is, but I know that we're on our way. And I don't know, if I live another 50 years, then maybe it could be. It definitely could be. And I think that's definitely where it's headed. I think that people will start to integrate with machines more and more and more. Give it 30 years, we might see the first person that's transferred their mind into a computer. I feel like it would be an incredibly slow process. I feel like it would be an incredibly slow process. I feel like it would be really, really weird. I feel like, why would anybody, I don't know. I feel like transferring your mind to a computer, to me, it feels claustrophobic. Right? It feels like the idea of being on a hard drive and being stuck on the hard drive feels very claustrophobic to me. I feel like they would have to be a lot that they would have to do to make sure it didn't go wrong. And like, what if there's some kind of glitch in the programming, and then inside of the computer you just have a constant conscious experience of pain, right? What if the programming glitches and you're just constantly in pain, or your mind's constantly racing and you can't turn it off? Like, I don't know. Someone says, there's no transferring the mind. Oh, no, wrong one. There's no transferring the mind. There's only copying. Would you be so sure about that? You know, you ever heard, and I'm not a physicist, but you ever heard that like every 8 years or so, all of the atoms in your body are basically cycled out? So like you 10 years ago has a completely different set of molecules and atoms versus you now. Is that true? Because I've heard that several times. Let me know if that's true before I embarrass myself, because I've heard that several times. And given that, you know, we still have that sense of continuity, right? We still have that sense of moving through time, right? Someone says that's not really true. I don't know. But either way, is it true? I don't know. Everyone's contradicting everyone. I don't know. But anyway, regardless, we still have a sense of continuity and moving through time, even though it's like we're not entirely the same. You know what I'm saying? So if you could do it little by little, replacing a little bit at a time, will it be more seamless? It's that ancient, or not ancient, but it's that like that metaphor where they say, how many parts of a car do you replace before it becomes a totally different car? Like if I replace one lobe and change it to like a mechanical lobe, I'm still me, right? But just one of my lobes is different, right? If I replace, but I don't know. I know theoretically maybe you could do that like cell by cell, batch by batch, little bit by little bit. I don't know. Someone says you're a materialist, I take it. I don't know. It depends on what you mean by that. It depends on what you mean by materialist. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not really sure about that whole atoms thing. Not really sure about that whole atoms thing being true or not, but I've heard that it's kind of like an urban legend, maybe. I don't know. Which part contains the soul? Well, see, most of the time when I say soul, if I'm talking about a soul in my YouTube videos, I'm speaking metaphorically, right? So people, because a soul is not something that's really definable or defined, right? But anyway, I think we've been streaming for about 2 hours. I think it's time to wind down. So if you guys have been enjoying the stream, if you've enjoyed the stream, then please hit the like button. Feel free in the comments below after the stream is done to suggest topics for future streams in the future. We can get on here and talk more cosmic horror, or I can just update you guys on whatever movies or books or whatever I read. And I'm sure it can be a lot of fun. This has been really awesome and entertaining. Everyone, please, please, please stay cordial and nice to each other. We're in a very strange time right now. And I know there's a lot of reason for a lot of different people to lash out at everybody for a lot of different reasons. But I just want everybody to know that, we can exist in a happy way and we can help each other and we don't have to be angry all the time. Like there's too much anger in the world. And let's keep Quinn's Ideas YouTube channel a kind place, a place for everybody. And, let's be nice. And if you're not nice, as I said in the beginning, you're gonna be banned. Like, there's just it. Like, I know for a fact that there's tons of people that probably comment negative stuff on this channel all the time and wonder why no one interacts or responds to them. It's because you're banned. You're the only one that can see your comments. There might be people on this stream right now wondering why their mean comments aren't popping up, and it is because you were banned. It's because you've said something mean or disrespectful or dismissive or aggressive in the past, and rather than allow you to continue to post that type of stuff and like lower the experience for everybody, you get banned. So that's just what happens. And if you don't, then you won't get banned. And that's just that. So thanks everybody so much for watching and listening. I stretch my legs. We're gonna head out of here right now. Oh no, I bumped my microphone. You guys, peace out. You guys all rock. I love you guys so much. And I hope you guys enjoy the stream. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace out, guys. Peace out. Peace out. I was gonna do something funny, but I decided not to. I was gonna do like a funny thing where I'm like, oh, like I'm actually not here. I don't know. You're seeing the true version of me now. Quite awkward. Right, let me stop screen there. Share screen. Don't share the screen. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Share screen. I click on the wrong stuff. Pluribus, Endless, Frankenstein, live stream. Don't want to click on this one. Definitely don't want to click on that folder. Because I can't have you all seeing my hardcore portraits of cool sci-fi characters. That'd be embarrassing. So, yeah.